Sorry.
Great. So welcome this morning, and hope folks are not snowed in across the country as we're watching the weather reports. We're not going to be snowed in here in LA, but we're going to
Ah,
go off to Disney World this week. Last week we were at Disneyland, and it's interesting. I was looking through the pictures real quickly. For anybody that's new to what I've been doing lately is taking pictures that are in the restoration pipeline. So I've scanned these basically, some of them like 15 years ago, and you work on some, you work on others. And the trouble is new ones always coming into the pipeline. You tend to work on the newer ones, and the older ones got forgotten. So I went back and looked at some of these last night, and it's like, oh, wow, that's neat that somebody took a picture of that. And that's one of the things I really get a kick out of these old pictures. I mentioned in intros to some of my books that I like to do pictures based on candid shots, not the staged publicity shot, but the candid shot that somebody felt was important enough to take a picture of back at the time when you had to buy the roll of film, you had to carry it around, you had to put it in, you had to wind it up, you had to then take it to get it developed. It was all a big process. Today with the cell phones, everybody's clickety, 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 and take pictures of anything. But I get a real kick when you look at some of these pictures and somebody would decide you had like 10 or 12 or 20 exposures, and then I think later it went to 36 rolls. And I think it's for somebody, this one sign was so important they had to take it, or this water fountain or something. So I knew when I was working at Disney, I'd be down at Disney World, and I'd go on a binge taking pictures of every sign on the property, just because I like to think about, you know, when I was working on a project, how do I, not do what somebody else did, or how I could steal from what they did, make something better. But it was kind of interesting to see how many people, the average people, took pictures of some of these things. So let me start sharing the screen here. Okay, let me go back. I need to find the first one I want to start with. So hang on one second. So we're going to go back early days of Disney, July 1972. And as I said, these are in super early stages. I mean, I scanned this thing ages ago. So a lot of these times, I can do an awful lot with some of them as far as bringing the light out of the darkness, that sort of thing. And occasionally in some of these shots, we're going to have some that were restored. So you'll get an example of it. But this is the sort of thing I get a kick out of today. It's just a simple beach scene, but you're not going to see this at Disney World today because the lake is now not safe for going into because of alligators and amoebas and that sort of thing. And also the Imagineers that followed after us, to my view, totally ruined the skyline and the look of the Polynesian village by putting up a damn high rise. So
mhm.
you look, I'm not a fan of what they've done at all. But anyway, back in '72, if you looked at all the ads for Disney, they had all sorts of things promoting the boating, and they had we'll see different types of boats, but you could come down to the beach and rent your little sailboats. They had, if people may remember, the little round boats that they didn't work out real well because being round, they didn't steer too well, but they would be in all the promotional videos and movies of the time you saw them. So the Poly, it's funny. I've never stayed at the Poly. I have many because I worked at the Contemporary. I guess every time I'm just naturally drawn to go down to Disney World, it's to stay at the Contemporary. Or these days we stay off property because it's one hell of a lot cheaper. But the Poly was just always a beautiful place to go to, and I think I have some shot today of the lobby inside. So we jump from the Poly over the Magic Kingdom. Again, it's really interesting. Whoever took these back in '72 did not do very well as far as setting up for lights. So this one's real dark, this one's real light. But with Photoshop, almost all these can be salvaged. Then you end up with little odds and ends. Like again, I'm not quite sure where this is at the Magic Kingdom, but it's bird bath and some hibiscus. It was just something that somebody found interesting enough to grab. The Main Street flower markets, we've talked about them before. The great splash of colors. It's really funny when Carol and I were doing Rose Parade floats. You get into this. For folks that know our friend Stacia Martin, she's a great Disney artist. We would sit down and design a float, and we'd have to tell Stacia, you can't use a lot of blue because there's not a blue in the real world put on these things. Then you end up with these flowers called stasis and other antonyms. But being here that these are artificial flowers, look how much blue, excuse me, they could have here on their street. So the fact the Rose Parade didn't let us use artificial flowers was too bad, but Disney could, so it came out real pretty. And here comes a parade down Main Street. Looks like Mary Poppins might be up here. Let's see if we zoom in on it. Yes, it's Mary Poppins. She's coming down this on the street rooftops of London and having a good time coming down the street. The parades were so much simpler back then. Sometimes it was just the characters marching down the street, and people would line up for an hour in advance to watch the dwarfs go parading down the street. Now today, of course, everything is giant floats with synchronized sound and all the rest of it. The castle, obviously, in the days before they've changed the paint scheme on all these things.
And before they put a big stage in front of it.
Yes, yeah, that's right. This is before the big four castle or four court stage that they put in front.
Yeah, I hate the thing.
What's going on over in the river? The Admiral Gerald Fowler, unfortunately, is no longer with us. It was taken out for routine maintenance, taken over to the dry dock, and had two big slings under it to lift it out of the water into the maintenance area. And they did not position the boat correctly. It fell out of the slings and cracked the hull. And they decided it was cheaper to just scrap it. And I think they saved the engine used in something else. But now there's only there were two boats, the Potter and the Fowler, and this had the twin stacks, and there's only the one boat left down there. And now that they're going to destroy the Rivers of America, I guess they're going to destroy that. But the Admiral Fowler was pretty much a copy of the Mark Twain from Disneyland. And out on Tom Sawyer Island, just a little mountain stream. And then the keel boat going down below, then the Haunted Mansion up above. It's interesting. You can start dating some of these pictures by the queue lines and how when the park first opened, they had no shade out here for the queue line. And you can see that the line goes all the way down out of the end of the picture. So it's the sort of thing you race in and you start trying to put things in there. It's become a little bit more themed, so you don't have a white canvas awning over it now. And just some general views of the rivers of America. You can still see the property is pretty new at this point. It's less than a year since opening day. So a lot of the trees that have been planted around the property are still relatively small. These ones here in the background are all the undeveloped area, that they've been there since before the park was there. The Burning Settler's Cabin. I don't know. I think we can just about see the poor dead settler here. It's interesting. I have pictures from when the park first opened, and they were in a race to get things done. And the Indian Village opened without any of the people in it because they just didn't have the crews available to put the Indian figures out in place. What was interesting is if you see the picture at that point in day, there were all of the electrical junction boxes that were stuck out on the ground for the figures to be powered up. So you come by and there's the canoe with an electrical box on top of it for the boy and his dog, and another box over here. So if they were in such a hurry to get it open, to me, I would have just thrown a bale of hay or something over. But no, here comes a half-inch conduit and a junction box sticking up out of the ground. This is kind of interesting. It's this swan boats. They were a very low capacity ride. It was definitely not a thrill ride, but it was an example of a great idea that worked in theory, worked in testing. It didn't work too well in practice. The boats were automatically guided. There's a wire that went along the waterway, lying at basically these are all paved canals. So the wire laid there, and there's two trailing wires that come out from the bottom of the swan boat that would determine where the swan boat was, and it would go left or right. It would steer itself automatically based on the wire down below. Excuse me, mail call. We're,
No, there's no
we're on a
people.
very regular basis here at Casa Cotter. I think Carol's racing to get it. Excuse me, 1 second. Coming right there.
Yeah, the people mover hadn't been built yet, you'll notice. Whoops. Hold on, guys, I gotta take this call. I'm gonna mute.
Oh, it's always crazy, but more good stuff. My latest film, A Catskill Game Farm, is just arriving. Anyway, so the swan boats were really kind of neat. They would go along, and I've got videos, home movies somebody took. You can watch the mechanism in the back, self-steering the boat that went through. Unfortunately, anything you threw into the river, the canal, you're not supposed to, but it would go down there and would kind of gum up the works, and the boats would then have to be manually steered. And it turned out they had a very low capacity. They were very slow. They were electric powered, so they had to be recharged. And Disney sold them off, and there's 1 or 2 of them that still exist. Some guys took them. They took the swans off. But one guy has restored the boat, and he's somewhere in the Orlando area. We'll take you out for a boat ride on a genuine official Disney swan boat. But they look pretty elegant, don't they? They were pretty neat looking. And just going down Main Street, USA. Back over the Poly, the
That's a
contemporary
nice
over there before they ruined it with the tower off to the side. I'm going to be one of those old curmudgeons today. Get off my lawn. You know, you changed my view. I don't like it. But back, one of the things I really got a kick when I worked at Disney was taking these little boats. They were called they were Aqualarks, and then they changed them. That was the name of the original company that built them, and then Disney decided they could build them their own, and they had to change the name to, I think they changed it to Water Sprites or something like that.
Yeah.
But we had a marina right. I had an office at the Contemporary that overlooked the water, and it was right over the dock out there. So it was kind of fun at lunchtime, you know, jump into a bathing suit, jump into an Aqualark, and go shooting around the lakes. I mentioned the little round boats before. Let me zoom in. You can see one of them just peeking out here. You could rent these and just take them out for a little ride. They didn't get all that particularly far. They weren't very fast, but they were. It was another Disney designed thing that made the park sort of special at the time.
I was always surprised they didn't have right-of-way issues with all the untrained people in boats and aqualarks cruising around that lake.
Yeah, you know, what's really interesting is the number of these people that would have collisions out there were kind of interesting. The Aqualarks would move at a pretty good pace. And one of the things that I found really fun was to come up as fast as you could behind the ferry boats and jump over the wakes that the ferry boat, because ferry boats left a pretty good wake out there, and the Aqualark would kind of jump up in the air and come crashing back down. They did have boats out on the lake, patrol boats that would go out, and if they saw you doing anything stupid like playing chicken or anything like that, they would escort you back off the lake. But yeah, you could just walk down here, plunk down your hotel ID card. They charge it right to your room, and off you went. Just great fun. And back then, they had water skiing lessons you could do at the lake. There were all sorts of things. Matter of fact, they even had fishing boats that would take people out, and you could you know, fish out in the lake. I don't think they've had that for many years. But the boats were great fun. I still remember though, you know, coming from upstate New York and everything's cold, and you get in something like Lake George in the middle of summer, it's still cold. I can remember coming down to Florida and putting my hand in the water and finding out the damn thing was hotter than hell. I mean, the lake was really, really warm, which is why now the amoeba problem has become such an issue. But it was my real first experience with a lake that didn't turn your lips blue. You also had paddle boats. So, oh, here's one of the little round boats here. Get a closer view of it here. So again, they would go in. They did have a rudder. They were theoretically meant to go straight, but they didn't work out so particularly well. The paddle boats absolutely, you know, as austere as you could look in these particular earlier models. You basically just sat here, paddled away, and you know, the newer ones that they have today have nicer seating and railings that you don't fall off and that sort of thing. But you know, it's just a little view of the lake. Here's one of the boats going out. Don't see too much of it, but just kind of, again, what made Disney World different. The pool, that's another thing that made Disney World different, was the theming that they did on the pools at the hotel. Back then, you know, getting into slides and big rocks and everything was something that you just didn't do at hotels. I mean, again, we're going back 50 years now that they did this, so the theming was really, really special. Little view here of some of the sailboats that were available. One of the launches that would take you over to the Magic Kingdom. I think these were called Sunfish, the boats. And a view that you won't get today because there's signs all along the lakes now telling you, you know, not safe for swimming. But this was a real big thing. If you were up in New York in the middle of winter and you could come down to Florida and sit on the beach and go, you know, out here and, you know, not be paying for it. You know, well, you'd be paying to stay in a hotel, but you know, take the kids to the Magic Kingdom, take them back to the hotel for a couple hours, tire them out. It was great fun.
Bill,
Yeah,
yeah, you know, John Lennon ended the Beatles at the
Yep.
Polynesian.
Mhm.
He signed the paperwork there, and he was at Walt Disney World.
yeah, at the Contemporary Resort, I believe.
I'm sorry.
I think it was at the Contemporary Resort they were staying when they did that.
Oh, I heard it was the Polynesian, but
I think it was
anyway,
Poly.
Could be.
Walt Disney World. So
So, well, despite that, it's just still a nice place to visit. So we're in July 73, more of the paddle boats. Again, more of the view of the marina. This one, I have better pictures of it, but we'll zoom in a little bit so you can see what's here. It's a Chinese junk. Disney decided at some point in time that they would buy this, and it would be a great thing to sail around on the lake and do dinner cruises and stuff on it. And it lasted for quite a while, but it started leaking quite badly. The caulking on it wore out, and Disney decided it would be cheaper just to sell it rather than repair it. Somebody did buy it, and they restored it, and they have it in, I forget where it is in Florida right now, but you can go and cruise on it. And it was an authentic Chinese junk. It wasn't something that Disney built in the shipyard to look like a Chinese junk. It was one that they bought. Back then, you just wonder, you know, what executives, you know, would come up with what ideas and how they would do it. And you know, whoever would think about buying a Chinese junk and selling it on a lake in Florida, just kind of different. Over to the Polynesian lobby. The lobby has totally changed these days, but back then it was really great. You had all these waterfalls inside. The lobby had an odor that was just unique to it. It was, you know, all this water's treated and everything, but it still had enough moisture and the natural scents coming off the plants, because these are all live plants and not plastic, you know, Disney versions. Anybody else remember this special odor of the Poly lobby? It was just, it's sort of like, you know, the pirates have a special odor when you go into it. Everything's, you know, sanitized and ionized and everything else. But the Poly was just kind of a neat spot.
I think somebody makes a candle with that odor now.
Yeah, that's I've heard that. I have not tried it. Some views of the ground, tiki torches. And off to the Jungle Cruise. Okay, let me get the next folder here. So again, some of these, I don't know, they'll wait forever if I ever get to them, but luckily with Photoshop, you can do all sorts of fun things. Back to the pool.
Hey, Bill, a lot of these look blue on my computer. Is that because they're Kodachrome, or if you rescan them, would that be improved?
most of this particular batch were ectochrome, and some of the ectochrome tends to shift towards blue or cyan over time. It doesn't have the same permanence as Kodachrome did, although Kodachrome changed over the years for how good it was. But here's a good example of, this is one that's not restored, and this is one that is. So with the Photoshop, you can take the blue of the rocks that are here, and you can restore them to the gray of the rocks that were in real life. So and again, you can also take, like, it's the same person here in the shadows, really hidden. Here you can get them and pull them back up. So yeah, a lot of these have a real bluish cast to it because of the film, just the dye is changing over time. And back to the pool area. Lots of aqualarks all ready to go out. Get the next folder. Some of these they're all the same group, this batch, but they were in different folders because I scanned them at different times. Anybody want to Mai Tai it by the pool? One of the things, again, I when I first went down to Disney, I just really appreciated this silly little things like the trash cans. All themed to the areas. The trash, they're all basically the same metal, but the paint job on this is totally different than the one over at the Contemporary, which is totally different than the one at the Tomorrowland. There's actually a guy that has a site dedicated to Walt Disney trash cans, and he's made a point of trying to get. Yeah, I see Carolyn laughing. The site's dedicated to everything, right? But this guy, I'll post some picture online, and he'll very nicely ask, "Can I use your picture on my site?" Because I didn't have a picture of that, and I got a picture of the golf resort and the pool. And again, he was just in like seventh heaven. I've never seen a picture of the golf resort pool, and there's their trash can. Can I put it on my site? So it's just, sure, no problem. I mean, it's kind of harmless fun, but he's just going around trying to, document, one aspect of Disney that he found fascinating. So hold your nose and jump on in. Here's again one of the little round boats. This is one that I did restore, so the blue is kind of down. But this does give me an idea of how this was totally dark. When I first started, you could barely tell there were palm trees back here in front of the longhouse. And you can do all sorts of stuff. Pontoon boats you could also rent and take out. So if you had, say a bunch of the kids or the grandparents, and you didn't want to throw them in an aqualark or anything else, you could still take a nice leisurely ride out on a pontoon boat. All right, we'll jump to another batch here. Let's see this one, October 1977. So these are Instamatic format ones. And again, keeping in mind warts and everything, we've going to be dog just jumped up. What was interesting is they've changed the line section here. If you looked at the other one we saw, the animals were in a different position. So the other one was 73. This is 77. So somewhere over time, the Jungle Cruise got a redo. And don't worry, he'll get it. He's getting the point. Oh God, all the Jungle Cruise bad jokes come to mind. Tiki birds. Back out to the main street. It's interesting at times to try to figure out how many of these were Disney groups, or I've got some slides I was just doing last night from 74 of one of the parades at Disney World, where they just would invite school groups to come in and march down the street. And again, a great way to get free entertainment. You bring the kids in, you charge their parents to come in, but to bring the kids in, they go marching down the street, and you put the carriages behind them. You can just see one of the characters from Robin Hood coming out here. But what a great way to get, you don't have to pay all those people to entertain all the guests. The kids love it. The guests love it. It was a win-win for everybody. Main Street Vehicle, Bob Gurr, the designer of all these things. looking out across the Seven Seas Lagoon. Well, these are dark inside Small World, so I'll see what I can do on these someday. Like I said, I did warn you, these are warts and all. Back out to the Indian Village. Oh, I tell you, I gotta restore this one. I still miss the Country Bear Jamboree. They took it out here at Disneyland too many years ago. So when we go down to Florida, love going to see it. And they've got a new show down there, so we have to get down to Florida and see how they've redone the bears. But Bonnie, Bubbles, and Beulah, if I remember right.
Mhm.
The omnibus and streets that are much emptier than you'll see today. What's really interesting is you go back and you look at these early pictures. When I was looking at a bunch I was doing from 71, 72, 73, the streets are empty. And at that point in time, you know, Disney was really sweating it. They were laying people off left and right because nobody was coming to the park. You had the gas crisis hit. Everything was, you know, right now you look at the park and it's so packed. You say, how could they ever think that this was a potential failure? But there were some years in the early years of Disney World where the company was going, oh crap, did we make a big ass mistake? And you know, luckily it all panned out, but amazing when you can look down the street and not see another person. And it's, you know, you can see the clocks and stuff, see that it's noontime. Today at noontime, you're lucky if you could basically see the castle from here. But again, the sort of thing that I enjoy, that somebody found the flowers of interest enough that they would grab a picture of it. And that's again what made, to me, the Disney theme park so different from any other park I had been to, was that they were pretty. I mean, you looked at, I went to a lot of different parks growing up as a kid, you know, Palisades Amusement Park or Rockaway Playland or, you know, Storytown up in Lake George, whatever. But they were all basically, here's a ride, here's some concrete, here's a snack bar. And the fact that Disney did stuff like put this in with splashes of color and all the rest of that really made an impression on me when I first went in. And it's still, I think, what set Disney apart from everybody else. 20,000 Leagues, we can just make out two of the figures in the 20,000 Leagues diving suits down here. Jump to the next batch. We're still in October 77 for these. Crystal Palace, named after, for us World's Fair aficionados, the Crystal Palace in London, the big first internationally recognized World Fair as such.
Still had the tree in it too. They haven't taken the tree out yet.
Oh, inside?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know why they took that out, but it's not there anymore.
I think it just got too big. And again, parades were a little simpler then. You could put Mickey in a little float. He'd wave to everybody. You got the band in the background and coming down the street. Pinocchio Village House. I remember going through training, and one of the things they told you was that the building was specially fortified to withstand hurricanes. So in case of evacuation, that was they strongly suggested that was better to be in that building than in some of the other buildings. So you know, to me, I would have built the whole place to withstand a hurricane, but I do remember them, you know, for emergency training talking about that. Well, walking up to the station. Oh, we hop over to Lake Buena Vista, the Empress Lily riverboat. Got some nice pictures of that coming up. For those that don't know it, it's not actually a boat, it's a building, and it was named after Walt's wife, Lily. It's been since then, they, in Disney typical fashion, renamed it, sold the rights off to somebody else, the Fulton Fish Company or something, and it's no longer the Empress Lily. But had a great steak restaurant inside, and really enjoyed that. But in the back here, people would complain to the waiters they were getting seasick, that the boat was moving, and they found they had to change the speed on the paddle wheel back here because it was always going around, and people were saying the boat was rocking. It's not a boat; it's a building with water around it. But they would tell people, "Oh, okay, we'll talk to the captain. We'll see if he can smooth it out or whatever." Just the power of suggestion. People are in a boat. And over here we have Aunt Polly's restaurant out on Tom Sawyer Island that was not there for opening day. It was added 2-3 years later. And the Admiral Joe Fowler mentioned no longer with us. Another thing no longer with us, the Nautilus 20,000 Leagues ride. As a huge fan of 20,000 Leagues, I was just in love of seeing this. And mentioned before, I went over to Disney World on a day off. I was a designer in the Polaris Trident submarines, and the other guys and I would all get a real kick out of going over and people, what you do on your day off? Oh, I went for a submarine ride. You don't get enough of that at work. Well, it was just really fun. A bunch of us submarine geeks all being on one of these and laughing and having a great time. I'm really sorry to see.
Bill, can you go back one picture?
Yeah. This one?
Yeah. What happened to the other canoe?
Oh, it's off to the side here, or
no, they were side by side in that first picture you had of the canoe of this
area.
Oh,
okay, yeah.
Yeah, maybe there were two of them right next to it.
Well, it is interesting to see how many little things just change over time, for whatever reason, and you try to figure out, was it done on purpose? Did it break? Did they move it to destroy the sight line or whatever? So I'll have to look at it next time because we'll see lots of the friendly Indian village. We'll have to change it. Even what I like on Disneyland is to be able to date it by first the canoe was there, then the boy was there, and then they added the dog there. So again, as they plus the attraction over time, it's just interesting to see how things change like that. Great catch though. The tree house, Pinocchio Village House, again fortified for your protection. Columbia Harbor House, I love going in there. They had one of my favorites, Carol knows, is Boston cream pie, and they had a really great. They had like a fish chowder in a bread bowl that was really great and everything. But a lot of times when I was working down there, just at the end of the day before I'd go home, I'd go over to Columbia Harbor House and get a big chunk of Boston cream pie. You could go up here and sit upstairs. There were seating areas, and you could just look down at the crowds down below. But I don't know if they still sell it, but boy, I ate a lot of Boston cream pie there. One of the street acts that they have. It's really, again, the funny little things that you spot. It's right over here to the right. Wet paint Donald Duck sign. There was a friend of ours, Russell Schroeder, Disney artist, and he designed a whole bunch of things with those wet paint signs and that. And it's funny things you don't think about. I like Russell. He could give you his copy of it. I probably have half a dozen of those wet paint signs sitting in a filing cabinet. You put one on eBay, people go absolutely crazy. Oh my God, it's Russell Schroeder artwork, and you go, yeah, wow. It was just the stuff he picked up that they were throwing away at work all the time. Getting ready for the big parade or whatever that day was. Oh, the topiaries. I got a real kick out of these until I went up to some of them and realized they were plastic. Some of them were real, some of them were plastic. And the trouble was the ones that were anywhere near where guests could get them, the guests like to go up and pose on them. And they had a thing of them outside on the road over to the Contemporary. They had basically a big elephant with 3 or 4 baby elephants behind it. And people would keep putting their kid up on top of the elephants to take their picture, and it basically destroyed the plants. So I went over there one day, and there's a sign there: "We're wearing our plastic coats for your enjoyment." One way to try to sell it. But the neat thing is, if you did go back to, there's a tree farm at Disney World, and I think they show it today on. They have extra tours you can pay for. But the tree farm had all sorts of trees that were growing in buckets and pots and everything to take out to put all around the property. They were also growing different trees to see how they lasted in the Florida climate. But they had a giant topiary farm out there that they were growing the new replacement topiaries to bring out and put on site. It was kind of neat to see.
Man, the streets are empty.
What's interesting is in the pictures in Disneyland, you can often see a thing saying 10 cents, 75 cents, whatever. On these particular ones, there's no prices, and I, I I know they had the mail order catalog for Disneyland fake flowers. I imagine these were for sale, but I don't see any cash registers or people selling them, or it looks like less of a commercial sales effort than the Disneyland ones we looked at. Okay, December 73. Somebody made his own title slide with a picture of the booklet there. Well, I remember how we were going to have monorails going all over the place. It was going to be the transportation system of the future. I still wish they were. And the Contemporary before they added on the convention center, the vacation villas, and all the rest of it. The Contemporary was a really fun hotel to work at. It was just so unique, that giant fourth floor lobby and everything, and it was great fun. Inside the Grand Canyon Concourse. This is one I did some restoration on, so you can see again these vinyl plastic trees that were in here, very modern for 1971. People now say, again, what did Disney do when they tore this stuff out? Where did it go? I'd like to think that somebody has one of these on their patio somewhere. And people on this talk probably already know it all, but these are all prefabricated units built at a facility that US Steel had. They would basically put the entire room together, put it up on a crane, and slide it in like a drawer going into a chest of drawers.
That's kind of like how they build cruise ships.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Then back at this day, you could go up on the roof of the Contemporary. It was very open. Either you couldn't go up on the center roof, but on either the left or right side of it, there were balconies that you could go up and get some views of the property. So, oh God, do we need to go in? I see Brock salivating. He's trying to figure out all the cars. But it's a little bit of a distance, so I'm sure some of these are going to be a challenge. Oh, I found a Volkswagen. But back then you could go up on the roof for security reasons now, because they don't want people jumping off of it. They don't let you do that. When I was there, unfortunately, somebody did jump off the upper level of the Grand Canyon Concourse and came down through one of the shops. That was not so much fun. But again, the things that make Disney different, go underneath the river. I had seen this before. If you go up to the St. Lawrence Seaway, the Eisenhower Locks, there's a thing where you come driving along and you drive underneath the river, where the boats are going through it. But this is the only private version, I think, that I've ever seen where anybody has had you drive underneath a river like that. Again, from the roof of the Contemporary, and if you look way over to the right here, Space Mountain is just going up. So there's something else being built in the back. There's another crane over here, but we just see the very, very beginnings of the roof going on to Space Mountain. Two of the launches crossing over the waterway.
Yeah, that was the connection between the natural lake where like the island is and the man-made lake out in front of the park, right?
Right, Bay Lake and
Bay-
Seas Lagoon, right?
Yeah, right.
Yep. Again, trash cans for the theme park, totally same exact trash can, but just looks totally different. So go to that guy's site, you can see all the ones you wanted. But isn't this nice? We get to see it without all the bugs, without the humidity, without having to have a magic band, without having to have a lightning lane, a fast pass, reservations. Looks like she's stocking the flowers, so maybe people are buying them. Now to Adventureland. the Gulf Hospitality House. So it was, when you would go in there, they would be very helpful, giving you directions. Again, you assume that people found their way to Florida, but if you needed directions on how to drive back from Florida to, say, Tulsa, they'd go in and they'd take a map and they would show you, happily, how do you get from point A to point B. It'd help you make reservations, that sort of thing. It's part of Liberty Square area. Okay. Of course, the Universal Disney popcorn wagon. How much can we? I can't quite make out the price on it. It's probably less than the 27 bucks or whatever it is today. One of these things, I don't think it shows too. You can just see there's a little figure here. It's one of the things I get a kick out of. If you go through Disneyland, I don't know if they've done it as much as Disney World, but the little figure making popcorn in each of these things is slightly different. So in Bear Country, it was a bear turning it. It was a clown in another one. So just the little things that kind of made the theming fun. Topiary Swan. Looks like no tree inside this one. Maybe it hasn't grown up that tall yet. Liberty Square. This is the waterway that the swan boats would have gone through. And things that have changed. The tobacconist. I don't believe they sell those anymore at Disney World. Looking down at the Pinocchio Village house from the Sky Ride. This one I get a kick out of. Look how different the Mickey, over the years, the Mickey design in front of the train station has changed so many times. There's sometimes where he's frankly kind of hideous. Other times you try to figure what they're doing. But in this particular one, I look at this and go, this is the famous cross-eyed Mickey. Looks like he's staring at his nose, doesn't it? If you also look at it, what's interesting is there's no population or up here. Over the years, every time they get to another 10 million visitors or something, they change the population of the Magic Kingdom. But it was about 3-4 years before they finally had enough people that they could go off and change that. So it's another way of dating some of the pictures. We talked last week about balloons. So for folks that like Mickey-shaped balloons, there they are. Space Mountain going up in the background over here in the Gulf Hospitality House. But look how empty Main Street is. I mean, it's there's one guy getting ready to go on a bus, and that's it. I mean, it's just from rope drop today, bam, you could not take this picture. We're going to end up with lots of Crystal Palaces today.
When it was that empty, were they making much money in those years?
No, that's the trouble, or if that's what I was saying, they were saying that they were really worried. I mean, back again, this particular roll was 1973. In this particular time, attendance was much less than they expected. Now, it really hit off when I think it was the first or second Easter came by. The park was just packed. The Interstate 4, the main highway going through the area, was backed all the way up. And we had I think it was Route 535, the state road that you would take in. And it was such a bad road that they actually had bumper stickers. Pray for me, I drive 535. I arrived alive on 535. It was amazing the number of wrecks they had on 535. But if you didn't have that to get into the property, you just couldn't get to work. So finally, after 2-3 years, it started going and kicking off. But the first couple of years, like I said, they had huge layoffs. But I mean, not just the Imagineers. Imagineers built it. And it's typical for those that have worked in Imagineering to know. You build it, and then they tell you how you're the greatest person on the planet Earth. Here's your cardboard box. Get out of here. So, but back then they were laying off people left and right at the theme park for operations. And cutting back some of the hours because the attendance was just so light.
It must have been very disheartening, all the effort they put into building it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm sure there were a lot of people that were really, thinking, oh boy, there goes my career. But luckily, when you make this sort of investment, you just can't give up and walk away from it. You have to kind of, give it some time. And, it started showing upticks. So like I said, when you got to the holidays, and then, what happens was really nice is somebody comes down at Easter time, they come back and they tell all their friends, oh, they were down there, they were at the beach, they had this great time. And then their friends start going, and it probably succeeded more in word of mouth than advertising, than getting people down there. Main Street Station. Looking at across Tomorrowland here, again, entrance to the fountains of Tomorrowland, but you can see again how empty it was. So someday, maybe someday, I will get all these restored and clean them up and fix all this overexposure. But in the meantime, here we go. Can't quite tell where the canoes are in this one. Again, the trees are so thin here, so sparse. These things have grown up tremendously over time. What's interesting is this guy would take this picture, and then the very next one, the lighting is just so much better, because here it's all blown out with all the sky and everything. And here, this is uncorrected. He just nailed it on this one. And we feel like one of those travel logs now. As we say goodbye to the friendly natives, the sun's going down. Here's the other steamboat, the single stack one, the Richard Irvine, which is still with us today. These are just kind of all in no particular order in the box. Great view of the 20,000 leagues, and you can just see it goes in through the waterfall here. And here's the giant show building that everything took place in back here, which was really kind of a kick to walk around at night when the place was closed, and you could see all the mechanisms of everything working down below. But all these catwalks and everything, you'd walk through the facility. Out to Tom Sawyer Island, a tribute to Harper Goff. Harper being the guy that designed the Nautilus, and he was also he did quite a bit of work on the '64 World's Fair. He was a real great design guy. Very atmospheric shot, huh? Imagine being the light bulb vendor to Disney World.
That's the day before LEDs, you had to keep replacing them as they burned out.
Yeah, I think they're probably still using incandescent ones there. All right. So that was December 73. What's good? Oh, we're going to jump way up into the future. September 79. So at the Tom Sawyer Island. Too bad the keel boats are gone, but again, this is what doomed it. Everybody wanted to ride up top. When they were not on a rail. So the guys at it's interesting, there's a group on Facebook. We worked at Disney World in the 1970s, and some of the keelboat drivers will talk about how it was definitely an acquired art, because the wind sometimes would come across and would catch the side of the boat, which was rather flat. You got all the people and everything, and he's steering it with this here. He's not on any sort of rail or anything. So they were saying it was definitely acquired art to be able to deal with it, and as the guests would rock the boat from side to side and everything. So people still. One guy said probably the best summer he ever had of his life was working there at Disney World. He just spent his day out on a lake, on a river with a boat going around in circles, and having fun.
Did they ever have one capsize because it was top heavy?
Yeah, that's why they got rid of them. Or if they, it happened, I believe, at Disneyland. that had happened, but they got rid of them at both parks. There was a whole bunch of people got up top. Everybody went over to one side. The wind hit it. It capsized, and that was the end of the keel boats. Luckily, it was very lucky. People could have drowned on it. It could have been really bad because, again, you do have people inside. So now when this thing goes over, these people sitting here are going to be underwater as soon as this thing goes over. So it was very, very lucky that nobody got killed in that particular incident, but it was enough to bring an end to it. Part of, frankly, what's happened is, people have gotten heavier, right? So back in the 70s, the weight load on one of these boats was probably going to be a lot less than something in 2010. But for the same number of people, the tonnage is going to be higher, and unfortunately, things didn't work out. I know there was talk about putting much more weight in the boats and everything else, and the lawyers basically said ain't going to happen. Down here, you can see the powder room. They had the secret escape tunnels out on the fort to get out and escape the Indian attacks. I still can't believe that they're going to pave all this over. Anyway, here comes one of the parades down Main Street. Again, our trash can loving fan would love this one. A fire with nothing there. Space Mountain has been finished by this point in time. Some views, except for the people, they put more people in it. This view pretty much looks the same today as it did back then. So interesting to see some things kind of got done right. The Barker bird. Another way you can date pictures sometimes is the bridge. It's a flatter bridge here than in the original design. This went up higher, more like the real bridge at Concord. But then they found that they couldn't get some of the parade floats over it, so they lowered the dimensions of the bridge. The tiki birds, for those that have not been to Florida, the waterfall would stop and the doors behind it would open and the pre-show would take place. Totally different than the pre-show at Disneyland. Looking down from the treehouse. Looks like the flag lowering ceremony at Town Square. You wonder what he's saying. Back off, kid. No autographs today.
That's Elvis Presley.
Yeah. Mandatory picture of somebody from the family. And the Main Street Electrical Parade. I tell you, I've seen it at theme parks around the world, and I still love the electrical parade. I'm a big sucker for it. As soon as I hear that first riff of the music, and ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I still think it's one of the best things that Disney's done. Inside the Contemporary.
The electrical parade reminds me of one time I stayed in a room in the backside of the Contemporary, and they had an electrical boat parade go
The
by.
water parade. Mhm.
Yeah, the electrical water pageant. It would go right by here. It's perfect timing because now we're looking at the backside of the Contemporary pool out here and the waterfront. My office was just about over here down to the side. But yeah, the electrical parade, they still do it. It's on barges and they bring it out. And there was this guy I worked with, Carl Spencer. He was a maniac. God, he was the king of practical jokers. Carol and I someday should talk about Carl Spencer and the dumb things he did. But we were at the Monorail Cafe bar at the Disney here at the hotel at the Contemporary, and I went off to go use the men's room, and I came back, and some guy came up to me and started demanding why they weren't having the electrical pageant that night out on the lake. I had no clue, you know. I mean, well, I'm just dressed in regular clothes, you know. I'm not wearing a tie or name tag or anything. And I said, "What are you asking me for?" He goes, "That man over there says you run this place." And I look over in the bar, and there's Carl laughing his ass off. So, you know, you have to be nice to the guests. I said, "Well, it's high winds. It's just too windy for the floats to come out." I'm just lying, making up. I have no idea. He goes, "Well, I don't know why he couldn't tell me that." I go, "Well, because he's an idiot, you know." But yeah, Carl was great fun. Yeah, here's Treasure Island, Discovery Island. And I think I mentioned in prior talks, I was sitting in my office overlooking the thing, and a lightning storm came out, and the lightning bolt hit the island and caught it on fire. And you know, how do you put out an island, fire on an island? Well, they have all sorts of boats run over there with fire extinguishers, and they got it out. But that was really kind of a unique situation to watch them dealing with that, because the poor guys that are going over there in the boats, you have to remember the lightning is still coming down, striking things, and they're going out on a boat out on the lake. So they were definitely unsung heroes. The garden wings of the hotel. We had a real unfortunate situation happen with this pool here. It had numbers going around the side, you know, 3, 5, 7, telling us it was 3 feet, 7 feet, whatever. A neurosurgeon of all things from, I think it was France, dove into the pool thinking it was 3 meters deep, and it was 3 feet deep, and ended up breaking his neck. So all of a sudden there were people out stenciling feet on it really, really quickly. But that was the sort of thing you don't think about. You're an American, you're building a pool, all they think, you know, you put 3, 5, 7, in comes a guy from overseas, and that was a real unfortunate one. Real dark, obviously, the monorail station.
What was the facade made of on the castle? Was that all fiberglass?
Basically, yeah, the turrets are all prefabricated, lifted up here by crane. This particular stuff is, I think, you know, concrete, you know, made to look like stones. But this is not fiberglass. This is a masonry type material. But these up here are, again, prefabbed and lifted in.
What kind of design requirements were they not forced, but did they have to make so that this could withstand hurricanes?
But basically, you know, there had to be a certain amount of wind, and the turrets and everything, like I said, had to be secured that they're not going to blow off or snap off in the wind. There was actually some plans at some point that they would take some of them off in winds, but then they realized the storms come up, trying to get the cranes in and everything. So they're basically you know, pretty well down there. There was also some stuff they had to figure out how high it could go, put a light on it for the FAA. And I think they were able to get it so that they were just under some sort of height. And maybe Brock or Chris or others would remember, but there was something that they did that they could get out of having a bright, blinking, flashing red light at the top of the castle. Now, of course, it's kind of a moot point because you can't fly over the property anyway. So, but back then it was an issue.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but there was some little trick thing they were able to do that put it in a range so it said it would be safe that way. And I think part of it too was because nighttime is your biggest problem, daytime isn't. And at night it's all lit up. And so if you can't see that as a pilot, you're not, you know, it's not like the castle would have its lights off. And I think they had to prove that the lights would stay on 24 hours a day and that sort of thing, so it wouldn't be lit up, but they just did not want that flashing light up there.
Yeah, I remember saying something that it was like 1 foot under some limit that it had to have it or not. So
Yeah.
Right. This next batch is kind of interesting. Lots of this little girl not looking very happy. She's getting her picture taken, but this was taken over at the Lake Buena Vista area back before it's become the kind of monstrosity that it is today. When I worked at, when I first hired on, I was staying out at some of the garden villa, the treehouse villas and other places out at Lake Buena Vista. And at night, it was just a great spot to walk around, have dinner, that sort of thing. And it was a great piece of the property. It was nice and quiet and relaxing compared to the rest of the area. No idea who the statue is or where it's gone since then, but like I said, we're going to see her bouncing around. They of course had their own marina. They had the aqualarks, the paddle boats, float boats, that sort of thing. Out, I don't know if it's this one or one of the others, was a Captain Jack's Oyster Bar, which was pretty much the staff, the cast member bar. I mean, everybody would go out to Captain Jack's, and it was just a great spot to go to at the end of the day.
Yeah, we did that quite often when we were visiting, and you'd have some people love the oysters. I love the shrimp. We just order plates of shrimp, and
Yep.
it was a neat place to go. But yeah, Captain Jack's.
Yeah. Yeah, what you call it, a friend of ours worked out there, and we started talking about the good old days, Captain Jackson. That's how you knew somebody was a cast member or not, when you say, well, what'd you think about Lake Buena Vista? The first thing, Captain Jack's. This is again the sort of thing that made the village unique, was that all the merchandise in these shops was non-traditional Disney. It wasn't Disney plush or anything like that. This toy store would have toys from around the world. They had Sir Edward Haberdasher had you could go and buy very expensive suits and jackets and all that sort of thing. But I went and bought a bunch of Disney ties out there. But all these shops were basically totally different than anything else you would have found over in the Magic Kingdom or anything else. In here again, they did have Disney stuff in some of them, but for the Disney collectors in here, you can look and see all the little porcelain figures that were on sale. So Tinkerbell and Peter Pan and the dwarfs and Mickey and everything. So we have so many of these things in boxes, I can't believe it. They had a really nice deli out there. You could go and get custom-made sandwiches and things. It was a good spot to eat. The map of the area, again, more statues and things. So,
Boy, she does not look happy.
no, because everywhere you go, Dad, Dad, I want to go see Mickey. I want to go ride Space Mountain. No, stand here, look, and she probably has blue eyes or something, so the sunlight is just great fun. So, okay, Dad, I'll take another picture. Okay, Dad, can I rather go on the boat and then take the picture? So, but again,
did he take a picture without her?
Actually, I think we've got right near the end. She probably rebelled and wouldn't be in them. But the sign of the times: no smoking past this point, and down here a bucket of sand that you can stick your cigarette butts in.
If you look to her right there, or her left there on the bench, there's that. I always love that artwork, the pink and yellow Disney World artwork.
Oh, the bags, yes.
Yeah. I always thought that was very cool looking.
I have so many of these things stacked away, all the brochures and little popcorn boxes and all the artwork that they did on it. This is the sort of thing I think if they came out and stuck in a T-shirt, they could sell 1 million of them today.
I think today she's probably 65 years old.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She did get some sort of souvenir wrapped up here, so she got to take something home for her visit. Come on, Dad. Hey! She escaped.
That's where
She probably jumped off the dock.
She's swimming to freedom.
Yeah.
Like I said, again, the pictures, why people take it. To me, I would have stepped a foot to the left, a foot to the right, got the whole marina, but no, we got the no smoking sign. So
that's what he wanted a picture of, the no smoking sign.
Yeah. This was interesting to me. The Royal Plaza Hotel, when the property was first built, Disney didn't have the money to put up all the hotels that they wanted. So there were 4 hotels. There was the Royal Plaza, the Howard Johnson's. I don't remember the name of all 4 of them out here at Lake Buena Vista, and they were run by outside companies and leasing the space from Disney. So the Royal Plaza had a bar, and it were they gave little plastic giraffes as the swizzle sticks. And I hate to admit, I probably have 50 of those in a box somewhere. But again, you're staying out here. It's night. The park would close at like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night back then. So you know, there wasn't an awful lot to do when you were on a business trip. So you go off with the other, you know, guys or gals you were working with and go hotel hopping.
Yeah, there was a Hilton there, and I think, wasn't there a Howard Johnson's original?
Yeah. So is
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
Royal Plaza, the Hilton, the Howard Johnson's, and I can't remember, Travelodge, I think was the other one.
yeah, I think it was Travelodge, yeah.
Yeah. So, but she at least got to see some of the park. Again, looking real happy. This one I got a kick out of. I'm trying to figure out what the hell is this. If you zoom in on the van, it's from Palmer Electric, and he's out at the you know, the Lake Buena Vista, one of the places for rent. But I just wonder what I would just wish it was more of it to tell us what the hell they're advertising and why this would be parked out there on the side of the building with that giant ass sign on it. I mean, it's just so totally out of place, isn't it?
But it was enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah.
Homer Electric is still in business, so we should call them up and ask.
Hey, that'd be great. This is one I had fun with. This was a number of pictures I stitched together that just happened to work out pretty well. So here's the Royal Plaza. You have Interstate 4 going by outside here. This
So
whole
like the
area
traffic.
has since been developed a giant shopping center, which I think is now being torn down to be something else. This was, if you know the area, it's called the Crossroads. The Crossroads Shopping Center was back in this day, everything here. And then way, way, way in the back of the distance here. Oh my goodness, there's some non-Disney stuff way back there over towards SeaWorld. So, but yeah, this was like a panorama I stitched together from several different photos.
Very light traffic.
Yes, very light. Over in this general area was a employee facility called Little Lake Bryant. It was a I thought it was a nice thing that Disney did was they had this little facility with a small lake and that sort of thing for employee use, and they'd have picnics and things over there. And again, nice that they didn't develop every single piece of thing on the property for paying admission. I don't know if Little Lake Bryant's still with us or if it's gone or what they've done with it, but it was a neat little Disney cast member perk.
It's still there, thankfully.
Oh, that's great to know. We have just a few more of the lake area. There's one of the aqua larks or speed sprites or whatever they water sprites they end up calling them. Give you an idea of just how big the building is. I mean, when you compare this to the size of the fake steamboats that you know, go around the river, this was a pretty good sized building indeed. There's some of the shops out at the lake. See if the sign tells us anything. Village Garden? I can't quite read it. Whole fleet of the little boats. They were all at one point they were done by color so that you could tell one boat belonged to the Contemporary, one boat belonged to the Polynesian or whatever. And then after a while, they realized that they were borrowing boats from one hotel to put at the other, and they looked better in different colors. So they just ended up being sort of random. I think this might be Captain Jack's. Hey, there's Brock eating shrimp.
Mighty tasty.
Yeah. So here's the Howard Johnson's, and yeah, got 3 of the hotels in the shot here. Like I said, I liked, this was probably from the preview center, walk, which was then used for the check-in area for all the Disney villas and tree houses and everything. Oh, managed to get her back to pose for another one. Just still the little things like these lights are, I just think they're so cool.
Mhm.
You know, rather than having big tall street lights and everything, just put these out here. I've never seen these anyplace else other than here, but you know, I just think again, you know, people took the time to theme these things and make them look different and fun. This was one of the pictures I used for that panorama shot I put together. Another one. Oh, here's the preview center mentioned down here. This was open before the property was open. When you came in, there was a model of Disney World. You buy the preliminary postcards and a T-shirt and everything, but they were all giving you a big spiel on Disney World going to open October 71. Come back and see us. When the property opened, this was turned into, as I mentioned, the reservation center for all those tree houses and lakeside villas and everything that we've seen. Today, I believe it's run by an amateur sports union, uses it for something. But this was still here again from the, I think it was built around '69, so it's one of the oldest things still on property, and it's still there in use today. Off-property hotel just on the other side. And again, one of the ones I use for the stitching. So with that, I will end it for today. Let's see, we go back here.
A tractor on the interstate there?
What's that?
Look in the center. Is that a tractor? You know, just in the middle of the interstate.
Yeah. No, it looks like a semi cab and he's hauling something behind him.
Weird trailer.
Yeah. Well, looks like the sort of thing that they pour concrete out of a truck, you know, concrete truck and then pump it or something. Okay, let's see. Oh, stop share. Okay, so let me go back through chat and see how many mistakes I made today. Okay. So you stayed at the Poly, Carolyn, huh?
Yeah, we went for spring break, went, I don't remember what year it was, maybe 93 or 94. And went for spring break and stayed there. It was just really nice and quiet.
Yeah, I always enjoyed going over there. I mean, did you go to the luau?
No, we didn't. We actually had bought tickets through the university and they had some special dinners and things on it. So we did those.
Yeah, I mean, I loved going over there, and they had the luau. They had a Polynesian cove out back you'd go out to. That was really nice. But
Yeah, you could still swim out there too. So we
What's that?
didn't, but we were watching other people.
Oh, okay, yeah, I enjoyed it going out there.
Hey,
Oh,
Bill, you were mentioning about the weird Mickeys at the entrance. I actually have a picture of the entrance of the Hong Kong Disney. Can I share that?
yeah, sure. Hang on one second.
I have to figure out how to do that. Because you were saying how strange they look.
Okay, you should be able to share your screen.
Well, if I could find it. Oh, here it is. Share. Can you see that? Isn't that?
Oh yeah! Oh wow!
He kind of looks like a mixture between Mickey and Goofy.
I was thinking Mickey gets a colonoscopy. I don't know.
Looks a bit stoned.
Well, there you go. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that.
He's cross-eyed too.
God, that
He's cross-eyed.
Yeah.
that is funny. Great, thanks. Just reading through the little garden with the fountain was between the Disney Story entrance and the railroad tracks. Thank you, Michael. I'm making notes of these things as I identify them. Treadmill video, steady walk videos that goes all the way through the Poly was yeah, again, I love the Poly. Just the smell when you walked in the lobby was just distinct. And you know, like I said, I worked at the Contemporary, which was all hustle bustle, crazy, everything going. You went to the Poly, it was just like, you know, it was relaxing, and you know, I enjoyed it. Like I said, I'd like to go to the shows over there. They had bars where you could get what you call it, you know, a tiki mug and take the mug home with you, that sort of thing. Back when it was on expense account, I could afford all those things. It was great. So you know,
Did
Yeah,
you-
that's probably why we didn't go to the luau. We were just poor. I was in grad school at the time, so poor
Well,
students.
I was really, really lucky because I was in this part of the management program where I could do anything on property as long as I filled out a quality control report. So it's like the secret shopper program, you know, that the companies have. So I would go water skiing and I would write a thing on how I enjoyed the water skiing and how that went. And then I'd go, oh, I want to go to the fanciest steak restaurant over at the Empress Lily, and I'll just write up a thing on how the steak restaurant was. So Carol and I went over there one time, and there was, you know, 4.5 hour wait. And I said, unless you don't mind sharing a table with somebody, fine, you know, I'll do it, you know. But it was really great. Oh, I'll go horseback riding today. Oh, I'll go fishing today. It was really great. Then when I left Disney, went to Warner Brothers, we went back down to Disney World, and now I had to pay for everything. Oh my God, that was a shock.
Bill, did you ever stay at the Wilderness Resort? Was it around when you were working there?
No, it wasn't built when
Okay.
I was there. Yeah.
Have you ever seen it?
Oh yeah, been there,
Okay, yeah.
and walked through it a number of times.
That was one of my favorites because I thought they did such a great job on the inside of that. And there were some little secret alcoves you could find where you could sit by a fireplace with a fake fire, of course, but it was one of those realistic looking ones, and read a book and just relax if you were, you know, and listen to the sounds of the place because they had nice music playing in it and that sort of thing. And
Yeah,
I also, there was out the back was a walkway went along a creek that went out to the geyser. And what I wanted to do when I was staying there, after I saw it, because I had never been there before, I went to a market to see if I could find where I could buy a whole trout, you know, and I was going to come walking in because I had all my fly stuff with me, fly fishing stuff, because I was going to go fly fishing with a friend there on one of the lakes for bass. And I was going to come back with a trout in the morning, like coming in saying, oh yeah, it was really good fishing down there. I caught breakfast.
he probably has a cast member is having a heart attack.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. That we walked through there. Matter of fact, we had lunch there on one of our last trips, just going through the property. When I left Disney, and you know, I joke about it, but now all of a sudden I had to pay for stuff. We also had the kids with us growing up, and staying off-site was much better. We would stay at like you know, someplace we'd have a kitchen and everything. So you take the kids in and, you know, make them breakfast and, you know, that sort of stuff. And in recent years, when we went back, Disney's put us up at the Contemporary. They put us at the Grand Floridian, you know, and it's again, you've got to tell the kids, they go to the Grand Floridian and go, oh, this is great. And you go, next time we come back, Disney's not paying for it. When, you know, we're not Grand Floridian. Where's the days in again? But I liked, frankly, after a while, staying off property because it was quieter at night. When you had the kids and you wanted to put them in the room, and you didn't have, I mean, like the Contemporary was nice, but it was loud. It's a loud hotel with all the noise going through that concourse and everything. So when I stayed at the Contemporary, it's like, do you want to be in the tower? No, I want one of the garden wings, please, because it's a lot quieter, you know, that sort of thing. But it's
Well, yeah, I was going to say, especially going down there when you would be there for 2, 3 weeks, maybe even a month sometimes on some projects when you weren't relocating. Staying at the hotels and eating out every night was just, no, I can't do this. And so I would always ask for like Residence Inn or one of those, which was the only one at that time. They were just starting to bring those out where you'd have a little kitchenette, and it was like you had a bedroom and a living room and a kitchenette and of course the bathroom and everything. But you could get your own food and fix what you wanted to have that night, and you didn't have to go out and eat outside every night.
Absolutely. Now, I was going there so often that the lady from and it was really I learned over time, you'd be really nice to people that can do good things for you. And the lady that took care of all the corporate travel at the studio, I was very, very nice to her. You know, I would bring it back like a little doodad or whatever. And she was like, "You're staying at the hotel so often, you know." And then they started getting into a thing. When I first started going down, the hotels weren't full, but over the years, the hotels started getting a 99% occupancy rate. So now they wanted to put you off property, and some of the off property hotels weren't particularly wonderful anymore. So she said, "You're going down there all the time. Would you like to stay at someplace different?" And I said, "Well, yeah, that's a loaded question." Because we have some houses at Bay Hill Country Club. Would you like to stay there? So I would end up using Dick Nunes's house. As long as Dick wasn't in town, I could stay at Dick's house. And this was a gorgeous ass house with bedrooms and a bar the size of my current house. I mean, it was insane, but I had a boat out back and everything. And it was really funny because my boss, who was not particularly nice to people, he came down to Florida and they stuck him out at like the Hampton Inn or something. And I'm at Bay Hill with the boat and everything. And he's like, what the hell's going on? I said, I don't know, Dick. They just, they treat me, different than they treat you. But did you guys ever go out to Bay Hill?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was there were about 4 Disney houses in a row out there, and that was the great spot to stay at. I enjoyed it, and that was right off near I Drive. So if you wanted to get off the property, go out at night and not cook something, there was enough stuff there. But yeah, I mean, the Disney hotels, we stayed at the Swan, the Dolphin, and a number of them over the years, and it's
The village was kind of a cool place to stay. I remember staying there, like it was near the shopping area, the village area. And then there was, at one point, they called it Disney University.
yes.
And you would stay there and then you would take classes if you wanted to, cooking and arranging and stuff. That was kind of quiet and off the beaten path and had a little lake and egrets. And it was kind of nice that we're there.
Yeah, that was all before they theme parkified it right now with everything that they've
Exactly.
done. I mean, we hadn't been back for a number of years, and we went down for something. I guess it was the D23 event I spoke at, and I walked over to the village, and I was like, okay, I know where I am, but I'm not where I mean, my brain was just fried. I mean, the Empress Lily, which is now the Fulton Fish House or something, it's still okay, but where did everything else go? It was bizarre. I could not orient myself as far as even where the parking lots were. That everything was changed. It was 100% different. And
It would be so quiet and such, like you said, it was this escape from all the Disney IP and everything. It was very quaint. And then because we stayed there when I did the Millennium Project, and we had the kitchen and the living room and our little apartments, and we stayed there for like 6 weeks, and it was awesome.
yeah, no, it's a nice area. When it was interesting when I first went down to Disney, and when I got hired, I wasn't planning on staying there. I had driven down, and I walked in and interviewed for a job, and they said, the guy you need to see is going to be here in a week. Can you come back? And I said, okay. So I went down to the Keys, I went scuba diving and everything, and came back. And I knew the preview center really well because they said, okay, we're checking in. They gave me one of the tree houses to stay at. And this was like, wow. I mean, a week ago I was paying to be here, and now you're paying, and here's free passes to the park and everything. So staying out at the village was really nice. So, the tree house is really, really a cool spot to stay in.
Yeah. Love
Yeah,
it.
they wouldn't let us stay there, but did you ever go over to the Grand Cypress Hotel there in Orlando?
No.
It was I'm trying to think what hotel chain. It was one of the big, really expensive ones. It was an incredible property, a beautiful facility. You go to the restaurants and you'd look out over this area that it kind of made you feel like you were in Africa someplace, looking out over that you expected to see herds of wildebeest and stuff go trotting by. But really good restaurants, a beautiful place. I remember they had this one display case in the lobby that had a piece of jade that had been carved into a Chinese junk ship with the rigging and everything, but it was like 3 feet long, 3 feet high inside this big case. But can you imagine a piece of jade that big existed that they carved this thing out of? It wasn't put back together. They didn't carve the pieces and then build it. It was carved, everything was carved away from it. And it was pretty spectacular, but it was a neat place to see, but we couldn't stay there. It was way too expensive.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, when they started putting you off property, they were like, I mean, I remember going to some of the hotels going, oh boy,
Yeah.
calling up my friend at Travel, I need out of here, because some of the ones on I Drive were real dogs. I mean, it was definitely crazy, but yeah, it's like I said, I enjoy going back and looking at things like the village pictures that we saw today. It's just all gone. It's nothing but memories and wiped out. And luckily people took all these pictures. I mean, it's again interesting to think that that gal in those pictures is probably getting ready to get ready for her Social Security. It's kind of scary.
That was that 19, was she part of the 1977 photos?
Yeah, 77.
Yeah. Because that was my first year going to Walt Disney World, was 77, and I was 15. So I'm looking at, so she's a little bit younger than me, but not much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's you know, again, you look at some of these pictures and you know, you think about, you know, you say, oh, that's a really, you know, cute whatever, you know, looking gal. Oh, she's got to be
80.
by now, you know. And then you know, yeah, wow, times have changed over, you know.
And when you look at the World's Fair pictures, 90% of those people aren't even around anymore.
Well, yeah, you go back and you look at like Chicago 33 and you figure what are the odds of somebody, you know, that at any age that have gone to the Chicago 33 fair still being around or kind of small. And then you look at guys like Bob Gurr, you know, I mean, Bob Gurr is the Energizer Bunny. I mean, you know, just he's still going, you know. Bob was probably at the World Columbian Exposition for all I know. Probably taking notes on how to design cars. No, it is interesting. Of course, you know, in my own mind, I'm still 15 years old or, you know, 12 years old at this park or whatever. But, you know, like I said, I'm glad that people did take these pictures. It is sad that the people that took them didn't want them anymore, that whoever that girl was, that, you know, her father, mother didn't want them. She didn't want them, you know, whatever they go. But at least, you know, they're available. All the digital pictures people are taking today are pretty much all going to just be gone. I mean, I think recorded history is going to just stop at a certain point in time because, you know, people's phones are going to wear out, boom, everything. I mean, I stop and think about it, you know, with, you know, my iPhone, how many pictures I have on this. Now, luckily I have everything backed up and everything, but you know, when the phone's gone, I'm gone, all those, it's not like somebody's going to go to a garage sale and sell off, you know, Bill's iPhone full of pictures of stuff that he's done. So I just think a lot of stuff is going to be, you know, be lost.
We actually, especially on our Route 66 trips, have got close to 70,000 pictures now for that. But we actually go out to, I forget which site it is, and print books for that exact reason, right?
Yeah.
We have something, we keep on our coffee table here. So every major trip we have a book somewhere. So, and that way you get to look at them too, you know, because you don't go through your photo albums on your phone that often. But
don't you upload your pictures to Google Photo?
I'm sorry?
Don't you upload your photos to Google Photo?
I do Apple's iCloud. That's right.
How long will that stay? That should stay there for a long time.
Yeah, but it's still nice to have a printed hard copy. Yeah, the people can stop by and they can look at the books and such, and we look at them more often.
There's been a whole bunch of people though, or that have had, you know, photos uploaded to some whatever service, and then they get told, oh, guess what, we're going away, you know, and now you got to download it. And a lot of people don't download it. But the trouble is everything on Google Photos. Okay, assume Don and Mountain Lion comes up behind him and eats him tonight. He knows his password to Google Photos. Those are all gone. They're all locked away. They're not accessible. So, you know, that's the trouble with a lot of these things. You say, okay, take Bill's cell phone. Here it is. It's a gift. Those photos are not accessible. You know, that's the trouble. Just running through.
Well, some archivist in the future is going to find all this stuff on iCloud or whatever, and there's going to be a significant number of them that are like grocery lists.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, when I go through periodically cleaning out everything in the iCloud photos, Carol will take pictures of things, you know, that, you know, redeem this when you get to the market and you know, put it in front of the scanner, it gets 20 cents off or something. And then you don't ever remember to take it off the camera. So, you know, you can see what the price of all the junk food she buys me is. And she buys it because I ask her to, not because she's trying to do anything bad to me. I beg her for it. Real quick,
Carol, this is not your fault.
Yeah, Carolyn, you mentioned your husband was an a cappella group. Yeah, that's the sort of thing they would do. They would, you know, bring you in, let you know, one person come in. But you know, if your son is going down there and you can bring one person in, well, you got to pay for mom or dad or the brothers or sisters. That's what they mentioned at some of the other World's Fairs. Like Expo 86 was really, really wonderful, and what they did was invited groups from all across Canada to come to Expo 86 and sing and dance and read poetry or do whatever. knowing that all their relatives were going to come and go see it. So they made a point of going all across every little village they could get to in Canada and invite everybody to come to Expo 86 for the day. And it was a huge success because of stuff like that. It's a great sort of marketing. Beth likes how quiet it is upstairs at Columbia Harbor House. Yeah, now that we've told everybody, Beth, we're ruined it for all the people are going to be there. Oh, the magical trash site. Beth found it. Okay. Oh, there's also a website that reviews Walt Disney World restrooms, the wildest flush in the wilderness. Okay, I'll go down that rabbit hole later.
Please remain seated.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny the things that they come back in memory. Somebody posted a picture the other day of the Circle Vision Theater at Expo 67. And they were saying how they loved being in it with the Mounties all riding in and everything. And somebody else was saying, oh yeah, the vertigo that it caused. And to me, as soon as I see a picture of the Circle Vision Theater with the rails in it, please do not sit or stand on the lean rails. They are not designed to support the weight of you or your children. It's like the stuff, you go to these things so often, they're burned into your brain. It's like, besides the bad Jungle Cruise jokes that come to mind, like I said, I cannot help but stop.
I'm spending an obscene amount of money on takeout.
What's that?
Nothing, sorry.
Oops, yeah, no problem. It's so it's just funny how these different things get burned into your brain. Of course, what did I have for dinner last night? Yeah. So glad folks could join us, and I hope nobody snowed in across the country. Watching the out here in LA, where I wish we would get some of the bad weather, because we have had no rain this year at all. It's just been absolutely terrible. But you see the big snow, the lake effect snow going all the way across the eastern United States, and wish we could have some of it. Poor Carol just said yesterday she's never really seen a really good snowstorm. So she's seen snow, but we were in New York, I think I mentioned, at my parents' house one time, and started snowing, and all the kids in Carol are, oh, this is great. And I'm going, we're going to the airport. We need to leave now, So, but everything is relative, we've been up to the snow in the mountains around here, but, nothing like what they're getting back east. And, I show her some of the pictures who are at the college, and you can see the parking lot and just the antenna sticking out of the snow, gradual humps indicating there was a car underneath there. If you don't grow up with that, it's hard to reconcile. So next week, I'm not sure which theme park haven't we done or haven't we been to lately. Maybe Freedom Land next week.
I think you did that once. That was an interesting one, Freedom Land.
Yeah, I still have a whole bunch of ones in the restoration pipeline.
And now it's Condo City.
Well, it's funny. I mean, sometimes I don't look at these things forever, and you forget that you have them. And yesterday, somebody from England, it's funny the way we are in the world today. Somebody in England is doing a museum display in Paris, and he wanted pictures of theme park of World Fairs in Japan. So, okay, and he needed them that night. So I got them, but I was looking at them, and there's Portopia 81. And I said, oh, wow, yeah. And those are all prints that I was scanning. And, I got halfway through the thing, and I got sidetracked and, didn't touch them for years. So yesterday afternoon, I found myself restoring Portopia 81 slides, and I'm going, but there's so many others. So better to have too much than too little, right?
Yes.
I also may do some vintage movies next week instead. So I will wait and see, and I will put it up on the website, and hope everybody has a great week. Everybody have a great New Year's.
Yep.
If you're in LA, by the way, speaking of New Year's, Carol and I, for New Year's Eve, went to see Once Upon a Mattress with Sutton Foster. It's at the Music Center. It's there for a few more days. There's still a few seats left. But Carol shaking her head. Is like today the last day?
Tomorrow. No, tomorrow's the last day.
Really?
I don't know if it's going somewhere else now, too.
Yeah.
My sister saw her in that on Broadway. I didn't realize that already on Broadway.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's actually a reworking of The Princess and the Pea.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
it's, depending on the people in it, it was great. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, one of those things where they, modernize things over time. Like when you see, went to see Pirates of the Penzance years ago, and it was Linda Ronstadt and what was his name, Barry, whatever, the guy that was in Greece. Anyway,
Oh, Andy, wasn't it Andy Gibb?
no, it was the guy. I'll think of it. Anyway, they start doing a thing where the guy in the orchestra, they're hitting things back and forth with ping pong paddles. It's like totally non-Gilbert and Sullivan type stuff, but fun things. And they did things in the show that we saw. Again, modern.
I think Kevin Kline was in it with Linda Ronstadt back then.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's one of my favorites too.
And Patrick Cassidy, because I saw it as well back then.
I don't remember that name, but I definitely remember Kevin Kline.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, that was great. That's back when. Wasn't that at Century City, the theater that used to be there? I think that's where it was at. I think.
Might have been the downtown at the Music Center. I don't remember.
I thought it was the one.
Yeah,
at
Michael
Century City
Crawford
that was
would
torn
too.
down,
Yeah.
But whatever. But anyway, if you happen to see Once Upon a Mattress, Sutton Foster was really great. She's very, very comedic, and it was a great show. So enjoyed it. So next week we'll come up with something, turn the Wayback Machine way back, and we'll see what we come up with. So hope everybody has a great week in between.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bill.
Thanks, Bill. Great job.
Great, take care.
Everybody.
Take
Bye.
care.